Good evening. Hello, everybody. It's Monday, 8 o'clock. It's me, Ray, and it's time for another episode with a late smoke. And this one tonight is episode number 67. 67. I need to do it. How is everyone? How you all doing? We are live in Instagram. We're live in YouTube. Yeah, I mean it will be a funny night. When I was preparing the episode earlier, I was like, "Oh, this is episode 67. I need to do 6 and 7." Even probably my kids will make a joke with me after that. But anyway, um, right. What's the agenda tonight? Definitely, we're gonna talk about cigars. So we're gonna start with what I'm smoking. I've already started smoking. What I'm drinking. A little bit of news. Worst and the best smoke I have during the week. And we're going to finish with some cigars from the vault and the stories behind them. In the meantime, all the questions are more than welcome, even if they're AI and stuff. I know Apex probably wait for them. Right. Okay. First of all, what I'm smoking tonight, I've already lit my cigar. I mean, it's iconic cigar in my opinion. What I have here, this is Padron 1926, the 40th anniversary. This is natural, unfortunately, no Maduro, but actually tastes very nice. It's probably one of the best natural Padrons I've smoked probably ever. Yeah, I started smoking the cigar roughly about 40 minutes ago. You can see it's already a couple of inches of the cigar. And yeah, the ash just dropped. That's why I was keeping my ashtray underneath, because I feel that will happen. It didn't make a mess. It's all in the ashtray. Cool. So I told you what I'm smoking. The cigar is I'm seeing. I'm looking at the chats in YouTube, and it's already lots of questions from Apex, but I'll go for it. This cigar, the Padron 40th anniversary, in my opinion, is one of the most emblematic and icon. It's a cigar which everyone should know. Maybe try to smoke it at least once in their life. But this is a cigar which starts something very, very interesting, something which kick out probably all the rankings and all the top qualifications. But back in 2004, this was the first winner of Cigar of the Year in Cigar Aficionado. So this is 22 years later. This cigar is still going, still doing well. But yeah, when I was looking earlier, what were the other cigars in 2004? Because I don't think I smoked in 2004. I started smoking just a little bit after that. And what the people smoke in 2004 is just mind blowing. I mean, I literally look at the Cigar Aficionado Top 25 for 2004, and I'm gonna mention you some of the cigars which are in the ranking, and I'll be like, wow, it's stronger and it's very, very strong ranking. I mean, I'm not gonna mention all of them. Again, it's just a slight off topic to tell you how great is this cigar and compared to what kind of cigars you win. The other question is he actually fair win? But again, it's not me the person to argue that one. But this cigar win with the competition of Padron 6000 Maduro, Rocky Patel Vintage 1990, which in my opinion is one of the best Rocky Patel ever made. Camacho SLR, that's the Camacho from the old school times, from the Aroa families. La Roma de Cuba, a cigar which this year also was in the ranking, so you can imagine this cigar is being like so well performed during the years. H. Chapman Magnum 46, that's the Cuban H. Chapman. Opus X, Fuente Perfection number 5. San Cristobal El Moro, the Cuban one. This cigar unfortunately don't exist anymore. Lito Gomez, this is the Chisel Puro, one of the first chisels on the release. Davidoff Millennium Robusto, one of the probably the best white labels of Davidoff. Monte Cristo number 2, which is one of my all-time favorite Cuban cigars. Ashton VSG Spellbound. Fuente Don Carlos number 2, probably the best Don Carlos Vitola in my opinion. Coiba Siglo 6 was number 3, and Padron win that year. So you can see what kind of cigars was in that year. I mean, creme de la creme. I don't think they do rankings anymore like that. They're just more of a commercialized, or I don't know if I can use that word, but yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful smoke. So, my cup of tea, it's also iconic tea. I mean, I was thinking, okay, what I can use to pair with this cigar, which will be not something unknown, but something maybe most of the people know, or at least if someone actually drinking tea. And this is Lapsang Souchong, which is probably the most well-known Chinese tea, variety of a black tea, which has been very specifically dry smoked with pine wood. Will give you lots of smokiness, lots of woodiness, and I think will pair well with the cigar as well. So, there's already lots of different questions in YouTube, so I'm going to start answering them before we go to the news section and the stuff, because I will forget about those questions, and I don't want people to let the people down and not answer the questions if I can, of course. As usual, Apex start with the super complicated questions. His first question is: explain the chemical process of ammonia release during the first 6 months of aging a cigar, and why some wrappers require up to 2 years to lose the scent. Okay, that's a interesting one. I mean, I don't know how to explain the chemical process. I mean, I'm not a chemist, but basically, the cigar. You mentioned during the first 6 months of aging cigar. So, if you're already talking about cigar, there shouldn't be almost any ammonia in the cigar. So the ammonia is removed with the fermentation of the leaves, not the cigar. So if you still have ammonia when you have a rolled cigar, maybe not, some of the leaf is not fermented, and it's not a good thing. It might break it down, but it might not. You need to break the ammonia down on the fermentation on the leaves. And you're asking why some wrappers require up to 2 years to lose the scent. Not only wrappers, it can be any leaf. It can be filler, binder, any leaf. Require more time because they're thicker, they're much more ammonia content inside, and that's why they need longer fermentation. So the fermentation process is pretty much the same. It doesn't matter what kind of leaf you're using, you're still doing the same thing. You build pilones, break them down with water them down, wash them, put them back together, make sure the temperature is right, and you need to be careful to not overcook them or to keep it too cold so they won't ferment it. And yeah, some of the tobaccos, I think the Brazilian tobacco is one of those tobaccos where I need lots of time. And if you compare that with, let's say, Ecuadorian Connecticut, which is very light, very thin, you don't need that much of a time. So the process is simple. You need more time for the thicker and more ammonia content wrappers. The chemical process, I'm not sure exactly how to explain the chemical process. Again, it's just a fermentation of a leaf with the heat and water. That's what you do. You don't do anything else. You don't do anything special. You just the heat and the water. I hope that answered the question. Explain the psychological and chemical reason why the final third of a cigar almost always exhibits a higher concentration of nicotine and bitter compounds than the first third. Right. This is a very long answer. I write an article recently. If you want, you can read it. I will help you on that one. But basically, the final, I mean, think of when the cigar burning, you change the temperature of burn. The closer you get to your mouth, it's hotter, of course. That's why sometimes you feel bitter. It might burn too hot. My advice is reduce the pace, slow it down a little bit. Concentration of the nicotine pretty much the same. The you burn in the nicotine, you burn in the leaf, and the nicotine is much closer to your mouth, and that's why you feel it much stronger. Also, can be another explanation about the nicotine why it's stronger on the end instead of the first part is the way how they roll the cigars. When they bunch the cigars, I should have probably have some leaves here to show you how what I mean, but when the bunchero in the factory bunch the cigar, so you get the filler, start with a ligero possibly, if there's a ligero, then volado, viso, seco, all the other stuff. The leaves are usually longer. So there's leaves are not 5 inch. So let's say you're making a robusto or you're making a toro 5 or 6 inch, the leaves are longer. So when you bunch them in the hand, you take the bottom part usually. Sometimes the top part depends how the roller working, how the bunch are working, and they chop it, cut it, squish it basically, and put them in the middle in the cigar. Sometimes I've seen it, they literally remove them and put them on the bottom. Sometimes they remove them and put them on the top. If you put them on the top, this is an extra ligero in there. So the ligero leaf, imagine the whole leaf. You cut like an inch or two of the ligero and put it inside the middle somewhere. Most likely go in the top or the bottom. So if the cigar is way stronger at the beginning, there's so many cigars where they start with a massive kick, and then the kick is reduced after, let's say, 10, 20 puffs or 15, 20 minutes. That's the reason. They literally put the double leaf at the beginning, and then the rest is the proper one. And opposite way as well. So if they put it at the back, the cigar starts very light and just build up, build up, build up. That can be one of the reasons. It can be a few different reasons, as I mentioned. It's not clear exactly when you're smoking. When you see the cigar, you're thinking, oh, I know how exactly the cigar will be on the end or how it will be at the beginning. So hope that answered the question. How does the specific soil mineral composition of Vegas Urbana farm in San Luis, Cuba impact the aroma profile compared to tobacco grown in world tobacco? I mean, I think I know a few stuff. Not everything, of course. This is a question where I don't think more than maybe 5 people in this world can answer. I've never been in both of the places, never been in World Tobacco, never been in San Luis, Cuba. And to explain the soil mineral composition in both of them, even if I've been there, I don't think I can explain it unless I do some geology investigation, digging and checking the composition and how that impact the aroma. I mean, don't forget the even if cigar is rolled in San Luis or World Tobacco, it doesn't mean the tobacco is 100% from both places. So it doesn't guarantee you the soil composition and the minerals and everything. So it's a very interesting question, but I don't think I can answer, and I don't think lots of people can answer. Maybe some proper specialists in Cuba, people from some of the university or the places where they work with the tobacco, they cultivate tobacco. I'm not talking about farmers. I don't think farmers can answer here. Maybe some of the blenders in Cuba, some of the master blenders which have like 50 years experience, they might be able to do it, but I don't think they will do chemical soil mineral composition as well. It's a very unusual question. I've never seen anyone asking similar question. This is a super technical question. And again, I don't think there's more than maybe 5 people in the whole world which can answer this question. Even if you pick up a blender from any company in the world which is not in Cuba and ask them the same question, I don't think he can answer. They probably can answer in their own fields. I'm sorry that I didn't answer properly on that one, but again, it's a very weird one. Hey, lots of people join. Dexter is smoking Guardian of the Farm, Serbius. Cerebus. Nice, loans there as well. Now, there have a beautiful question as well. When you throw the first touch, the cigar becomes different. Sometimes it goes off. Sometimes the flavor becomes different. Sometimes no smoke came out. All my cigar just came out. Well, this is something I noticed as well, especially in the, let's say, the recent years. Every time I have literally, it happened even now. When you look at when you saw me when I start the live, I have a ash which was 2 inches probably. The ash drop, the cigar stopped burning. Literally, I need to relight it. This is because when you remove this ash, you open up the cigar, and the burning area is much bigger. So you open it, you bring more fresh air. You need much more bigger light to keep lighting it. When you have the ash stacked, somehow quiet it down. I don't know how to explain that. Somehow narrow it down is just like a basic burning, but it's enough for you because it's covered with ash. It doesn't give you lots of new oxygen and stuff, and it's just there. And when you remove it, you basically kill the whole heat, and you need to bring in more heat to keep the cigar burning. A simple explanation I can do. Almost every time when I try to keep the ash, and I told you many times, I try to keep the first ash intact until it falls itself. And when the ash fall, when it's over inch or two, almost any time I need to relight it. And I don't think this is a mistake of the smoking. This is just how the psychology of the cigar, the physiology of the cigar work. So hope that explained it. Right. We start with lots of interesting questions. Some of them I can answer, some of them no. I mean, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Again, I would the condition will be, if it's a question which requires much more talking, probably I will write an article about it, or do some more researching if I don't know the answer. So if it's a simple question, I'll try to answer now. You got it? Cool. Right. Let's move on to the news section. And yeah, in the meantime, Apex, if you have more questions, shoot them on. I will try to answer, but again, if they're like the Vuelta Tobacco and the different farms, I don't think I can answer that one. I'm sorry. The first news coming out as a release, I mean, there's a few releases we want to talk about today. The first one is Fratello announced the first Dominican Puro release they have. So they announced the shipping of 1821 Dominican Republic. Fratello is one of those companies where they start with lots of undisclosed stuff at the beginning. Obviously, slightly later, the information came out. Most of the cigars are made by Juez in Nicaragua, and now they start a project where basically Omar wants to release cigars from different countries, in having tobacco only from the specific country. So the first cigar in that project is the one from the Dominican Republic. So the cigar is containing 100% Dominican tobacco. It's made by La Aurora. I mean, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest producer in the world. One of the oldest Dominican factories. Big cigar, 6x58, massive chunky. The price of the cigar is under $20, so I reckon it's okay. The name of the cigar, 1821, that's the year where Nicaragua and Dominican Republic get the independence from Spain. But yeah, that would be different batches. So the first one is this one. I reckon in the future probably he will add different vitolas, and it will be interesting to see. Probably he will release Nicaragua. He already have Nicaraguan puros, but maybe he won't add it as a part of this specific line. And most likely he will release as well Honduras in some point. And then I want to see what you're going to release after that, because those three are easy. The next one will be Mexico, Costa Rica, maybe Cameroon, maybe Brazil. Those are the next one, but they all. I mean, I know there's a Brazilian puros already on the market. They're interesting. Mexican puros, there's a few as well. They're interesting. Costa Rican puros, probably there's a Costa Rican puros. I can't just nothing came on my mind as a Costa Rican puro at the moment. But it's a cool project. I like ideas like that. And if you follow the trends in the last, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years, 20, 30 years ago. Let's start from 30 years ago. 30 years ago, when was the first cigar boom? 94, 95, 96. Most of the cigars was slightly start shifting towards multi-countries, multinational blends. They used to be predominantly one country, maybe a wrapper from a different country. They start shifting towards multinational stuff, using 3 countries, 4 countries. Even some brands have like one cigar with 5-6 different leaves, or 5-6 different countries. Um, I think the last few years, so call it after pandemic, lots of brands start thinking now to produce Apuros, Nicaraguan, Dominican, Honduran. They for some reason they want to present more pure style cigar, maybe following the Cuban way in some capacity. Maybe that's again it's a new trend, and I've seen it in a bunch of different companies. Maybe they follow some companies like Padron and Fuente Davidoff, which predominantly use their origin, their tobacco. Of course, they use blends as well on different some of the different lines they have, but they're well known for having pride with the tobacco they produce from his own country. But yeah, that would be definitely a cool project. Okay, there's a question in Instagram, Cigar House Miami. One day will just stays the same. I mean, how many different cigars can be there? Whew. I've mentioned this many times. It's unlimited possibility. It's not only, when two cigars will not taste the same, even if you use tobaccos from the same farm, even if you use tobaccos from the same field, they still not going to taste the same. Um, Priming is, if you change the priming, different taste. If you change the variety, different taste. You change the amount of each leaf, different taste. And this is again, even if you, let's say you have tobacco only from this area here next to me, not over there 100 feet away. This one here, you get a tobacco here, you roll the cigars only from here. But in one of the cigars, you add a little bit more of the ligero or the top priming or some of the middle primings, cigar will change completely. So it's endless possibility of different tastes and aromas. Some of those probably we won't pick a difference. At least some of the people who are more of a occasional smokers, they won't might find a difference. But if you're a proper professional smoker or blender or someone who makes cigars, you will notice the difference, and that's the biggest beauty of being a master blender, to be able to recreate the same cigar twice using a little bit different tobaccos. Which I always said is probably the hardest part of the blender's job. Okay, Dexter have a very interesting question on Instagram, YouTube. Do you recall what were the most popular New World cigars during the boom back in the 90s? Diamond Crown came out right. Diamond Crown came out right around them. I think this is just me thinking out loud, so it's not a verified information. Don't take it for granted. But I think Fuente was a strong presence back then. Baccarat used to be a very popular. Macanudo used to be the most selling cigars by far. Some of the brands which were copying the Cuban ones, they were very strong, like Chopman, Monte Cristo, Romeo Culeta. Those are the non-Cuban ones. They were very strong. There's lots of brands which doesn't exist anymore. After that, from the current brands, those are probably stronger brands. Davidoff will start picking up seriously around that time, so that was literally 4 or 5 years after Davidoff moved to DR. Dunhill was a very strong brand at that time. So Dunhill, after they move out from Cuba, they changed in a few different production lines in DR, in Honduras. They were hard, they were strong. Yeah, those was Perdomo will start picking up as well around that time. They were just starting, but they were already picking up lots of traction. Of course, Ashton, you mentioned Ashton, Diamond Crown, JC Newman were doing well. I think Cuesta Rey was the biggest seller back in the time, not the Diamond Crowns and stuff they came after. But Cuesta Rey was still, made in Fuente, very light, mild cigar. I don't know. Maybe I need to think who else from the current brands. They're smoking Maximus, and it's amazing. It's a good cigar. And now it's time to talk about the other release I want to talk about. And Principe Cigars announced the release of a new line called Engagement, which was super cool looking cigar. So Darren, I mentioned Darren Choffey many times in my life. It's a great guy. I have a massive respect for him and what he's doing. He's actually one of those people who all the time try to be different. Not only different names and stuff, but the packaging and the details Darren put in his cigars are just phenomenal. So I've mentioned he releases cigars which have a real dial from a watch, from a very old vintage watches. He put the dial on the band, so you open a box, every cigar have a different band, different dial from a vintage watch. He did a cigar with the old train tickets as a band, perforated train tickets. He did a cigar with the old money, old currency. I think Russian money. He used some other, I don't know what currency. He did a cigar with the old papers, all kind of different stuff. So now the new line he released in Engagement, apparently using original bands from a brand called Engagement in the 1920s. So he managed to find unused bands which were very well preserved for over 100 years, and now he put it in a batch of cigars and released them, and look very vintage. I mean, I've been looking the picture of the boxes and the cigar, and they look super cool. I mean, like something. I have some of those vintage cigars in my in my humidor. Obviously, they don't taste that well, so this will be super interesting to have in a very well made cigar. Apparently, new cigar with a very old band, looking very old and rustic, but very new cigar actually. It's like a, I don't know, if you get a maybe if you find a very old car, let's say Ford T or something, from 1930s, 1940s, and you put a, I don't know, maybe a hybrid engine, or you put some W12 engine under the, bonnet, make it like 600 horsepower, and it'll be, I mean, people do it, and why not with the cigar? So you find the cover of the cigar, which is super old, but the what's underneath, it's actually very new and very fresh. Right. The next question in YouTube is from Nader. Do I think Aganorsa Leaf deserve a high price? I don't think they're highly priced. Maybe if I missed something, they might have one or two lines which are slightly over the other ones, but I don't think Aganorsa, I don't class Aganorsa as a very expensive brand. And if they start charging lots of money for their cigars, I don't think they will worth. In my opinion, Aganorsa struggled a little bit with the construction in the recent few years. There was a few people which complaining of the construction in general. Aganorsa, I tend to agree with them on some lines, not everything. I mean, someone in the chat was smoking Aganorsa, Dexter smoking Guardian of the Farm, which is made by Aganorsa. I mean, you can tell how you feel about the cigar. I don't think it's expensive cigar, but how is the construction? I mean, feedback will be positive here. It's a good cigar, but I still prefer Maduro. I'm missing something here. It's a little bit too over spiced without having that sweetness to cope with the spiciness. So when you have a spicy, peppery, harsh cigar, in my opinion, if you need to add something to make it much more sweeter, when you have the sweetness, it's mellowed down and it feels different. On this one, you don't have a sweetness; it's natural, so there's not much of a sweet tobaccos, and I'm missing this sweetness. Now there says $15 average price. I mean, $15. I don't think it's an expensive cigar nowadays. I mean, maybe 5 years ago, $15 was very expensive cigar, but nowadays, where pretty much almost everyone producing over $15 cigar, I don't think it's very expensive. It's pretty normal. Of course, if it's something under 10, will be better, but most of the time, if it's under 10, cigars is just not worth it. I mean, I'm sorry for everyone who make very cheap cigar. I've always said, if I find a cheap cigar, I will put it out there. I will mention it, and I did it so many times when I smoked something under 10. I've already mentioned it, and I say this is a great cigar for under 10 or whatever price. But yeah, 15 I think is. I mean, there's a bunch of people in the chat, Dexter, and a few other people from the US. I'm pretty sure they can say what's the average price on the cigars at the moment, but I think something like $12 to $15 is pretty much what's the median at the moment. Right, that was the releases for this week. The next one is a news which we developed through the months. It's something which was ongoing for more than 5-6 months. So the company Tabacalera SLU, the company who is partner in Habanos, who own Habanos, with lots of controversial news around in the last months, obviously with the Chenzi drama, with his arrest and everything, all the crimes. Now they try to basically put the company to pre-insolvency, which is most likely mean liquidation. I mean, they don't have a problem with the finances, so the issue here is not a financial issue. It's more of the reputation, which has been heavily damaged, and they try to restart it somehow, because the problems they have with the recent news is where the US government basically says everything produced from this company is not allowed in the US, and they are one of the biggest producers of cigars. Maybe they think when they break down the company, or maybe change the ownership, or do something like that, they will be able to do it again, to sell again all the cigars they were producing. It's another news where we will keep looking at the what's new, what's updates there, what's coming. It's not clear why exactly they're doing this type of acting at the moment, but Dexter says the only Laganorsa really have a construction promise is the validation line. I mean, there's rumors that Foundation left Aganorsa for construction issues. Again, this is just a rumor. The Foundation used to make the El Jujense in Aganorsa. They move out. They're made now by my father. Some people say it's the construction issues and lots of problems with that one. Who else moved from Aganorsa? There was a few other companies which move out from Aganorsa, don't make cigars anymore. So with Aganorsa, the main issue they mentioned is construction. So, Jacob, who's in trouble? Well, no one particularly. The news about the Tabacalera is basically they keep developing, keep following closely what's happening with the company. No one particularly is in. I mean, Cuba is in trouble, but that's on another note. Right, that was the news section today. And now we're gonna move to what's the best, what's the worst smoke I have during the past week between the shows. The worst smoke, we'll start with there. The worst smoke I have during the last week was Hiram and Salomon Revival. The review is on the website. You can read it and see what's the issues, but basically there was nothing positive in this cigar. The cigar just doesn't want to stay burned. I relight it, I don't know, 11, 12 times. It just tastes like charcoal. I try to give it a chance. I'll be honest with you, I throw it away just over the last third. I very rarely do that, but it's just unsmokable. I was struggling. Literally, I was all over ash and debris, and it's just the cigar doesn't want to stay lit. And it's not an old cigar or anything. So this cigar was actually given to me approximately a month ago from a friend of mine. We met. We, as usually, everyone bring out cigars and stuff. So he gave me that one. I say, I haven't smoked it. I want to try it. Yeah, very disappointed. So the cigar was made by PDR in DR, and this basically confirmed one of my theses that Hiram and Salomon struggle a lot with their production made in DR. Years ago, when they were making the cigars in Plasencia, I very rarely have a problem with the constructions. Maybe not my taste cigars, but construction issues very rarely. Nowadays, I just can't have a properly constructed cigar from them, which I will say, okay, I want to feel the flavors, the taste, the aroma. And this was another example. I was curious because this year, and obviously since I started doing reviews in the website, I smoked few Hirman Salomons, and they are not the best one. And every recent one is just not worth smoking it again. So maybe it's a one-off, maybe the whole line, but I don't know. Right, cigars and cars, UK, Peter. That spicy loving the reason I prefer natural over Maduro. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Again, it's for me. I prefer if it's spicy. I prefer to have a little bit of sweetness. That's how my palate. I like my palate like it. But I know lots of people do naturals and enjoy naturals, so do it. Lots of companies struggle in construction. Is it perhaps new rollers and the old ones retire? Not only. I mean, great question from Jacob. It's yes, one of the reasons is obviously the rollers not only retire. The biggest problem actually the companies have with the rollers is they immigrate, they move out. People from DR, Nicaragua, even Cuba, they go to US. Following the bigger salaries, maybe changing the industry, working something different, but getting much more money for your labor. And that's one of the reasons. I think also the difference of the tobacco. There's so many tobacco at the moment, but not every tobacco is good enough. And the more and more company came in on the market, everyone wants to buy good tobacco. Maybe some companies have more money, they actually buy the good tobacco, but other companies struggle. They buy whatever is left, especially if you wanna buy specific types of tobacco. I think there's still ongoing problem of connected broadleaf, which the last 3 or 4 years was massive issue for some newcomer to come and use the connected broadleaf because he won't get any good connected broadleaf. It's all go to the specific old timers which already have negotiated prices with the producers, the farmers. And there's other tobaccos, Cameroon as well. There's issues with Ecuador. Was last year there was lots of reports that Ecuadorian wrapper is not good enough. There's lots of problems with Ecuadorian wrapper. If you already use an Ecuadorian wrapper on some of your cigars, you need to buy whatever you can, and maybe that also will not going to be a perfect one and will give you construction issues. Sometimes the cigars being rushed to be released. That also can cause issues on the construction, and there's examples for that. There's a companies in the past where some of their cigars get higher rankings, either in Aficionado, either in some of the other magazines or medias. They overnight they have quadruple the orders, even multiply the orders by 10 or whatever, and they want to make the money. I mean, if you have an orders, people ready to pay for your product, and you don't have a product, sometimes you rush it. There was interviews with people which were basically confirming that one. And yeah, if you rush it, you just tell your rollers to roll more. Maybe do on the side and say, look, construction can be all right. Cigar, if the cigar look good, just ship the over. Yeah, I mean, it's lots of factors can be here. Right. The best cigar I have in the past week was actually last night. And it was a very, very surprising cigar for me. The cigar was my father, La Flor de las Antillas Robusto, a cigar which also was number one 2012, maybe 11, 13, that time. I mean, 12, 15 years ago. A cigar which, why I said surprised me, I never enjoyed this cigar that much. I smoked so many La Flor de las Antillas, and every time I say, it's all right cigar. I can smoke it, but I cannot smoke it. And last night, I found that I have few of those, and I smoked one of them. I did a review. Review is on the website. For me, it was like almost perfect. It's obviously it's not a typical My Father cigar. That's not spicy cigar. There's no pepper there. But everything else was so creamy. Construction was absolutely on point. Literally to the last bit. No single issue. And it's a box press cigar. Sometimes we talk that the box press cigars have more problems with issues with the construction. This one was no issues at all. 5x50 Robusto, very standard, typical Robusto. The only small issue where I knocked down a point was last part become a little bit blunt. Not much of a complexity. Literally when you go to the last 13, it was like, I don't feel it anymore. But before that, the cigar was fantastic. It's a great smoke. I definitely am curious now to smoke it again. Mine was not entirely sure how old. Definitely 2 or 3 years old, maybe more, but I doubt. Maybe the little bit of age on that cigar help it, or maybe my palate's changed, like everyone's palate during the years change, and some of the cigars feel better. Maybe the cigar was just phenomenal. Who knows? Nadir's asking, do I recharge my Boveda? I don't use Boveda. I haven't used Boveda in years. When I used to use Bovedas, yes, I was recharging. I know it's not correct. Some people will say, no, you shouldn't do it. I mean, technically you shouldn't do it, but I did it. I'm a Bulgarian. I want to save money. So I'm a hustler. And we don't like to, pay money for stuff. So I did recharge them. I did a few different ways. I mean, Jacob says, yeah, with steam and moisture. I'll be honest with you. When I was recharging them, I just grabbed the Bovedas when they're dry, throw them in a distillated water container, literally throw them inside. I don't care how soaky wet will be. After a few days, they expand massively. Take them out, dry them out for a few hours a day. When they're completely dry outside, they're big and like a fresh. I use them. I don't know how accurate they were. That's the problem with those humidification packs. So all the producers of the humidification packs, they said in their websites and in the places where they're selling them, oh, if you rehumidify them, you cannot guarantee the numbers shown on the package. Like if it's 69, 63, 65, 71, whatever, there's no guarantee it can go there. It might be more, it might be less. But I was using it anyway. My hydrometer was showing correct what I want, so that's what I was care. I wouldn't recommend to do it. Again, there's no guarantee, especially if you have if you're so OCD and you want exact numbers on everything. Probably is not the most reasonable way to do it. But also, if you have a big collection and only use Boveda, I mean, it costs lots of money. But if you have a big collection, maybe you don't have a problem with that. Who knows? But I did it in the past. I won't do it now, but yeah, I mean, Nadir says they want to increase the sales. Of course, that's part of the game. It's a product we use once and we throw away. I never have a problem with rehumidifying them. I've seen people have some of those bursts and literally expand so much and they explode in one way. Never have any of those happening to me. I don't know how long you need to keep it in the water. Maybe you need to forget it in the water so it can expand and burst. But for me, I keep monitoring them. I have literally one of those plastic Tupperwares. Fill it up with distilled water. I get like 5 liters can. Fill it in and just throw them there and leave them for, I don't know, a few days, a week. There we go. Jacobs have a big collection in Tupperwares. There we go. And it's he used to buy cigars instead of expensive stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, it's cigars in German and smoking. You don't smoke the Boveda. But again, if you want to do it, do it. Would I recommend it? Probably no, but I did it. Don't be like me. If you think to experiment with something, most likely I've already experimented and tried because by nature I'm a very curious person. I like to experiment. If someone even make a joke and say, "Have you tried that one?" No, but now you mention it, I want to try it. So I did all kind of stuff, try to infuse cigars and top it up with some stuff and cut the cigar, lit the cigar, leave it after that for the next day. All kind of weird stuff. I've already did it. So if you have any question on those ones, just ask me. The same as the Boveda. Would I recommend it? No, but I did it. You smoke? Sometimes. Not often, but occasionally. I haven't seen you drop aura. Who are you? As a new guy in YouTube who asked me, do I smoke? Again, not much. I just puffing from the cigar, but I don't smoke really. Pretending. Right. Time for the cigars from the collection, cigars from the vault. The traditional topic as well. We're gonna start with the tobacco or ganja. I mean, you're in a cigar channel. What do you think I'm smoking? I mean, obviously smoke tobacco. Ganja, never tried in my life. I'm sorry, maybe it's good for you, but I don't like it, so it's not for me. I'm not a big fan of the drugs. Doesn't matter what kind of drugs. So I've never tried any drug in my life except paracetamol. But some people like it. Again, I don't judge. It's just not for me. Right. Time for the cigars from the vault. The first brand we're going to start and we're going to talk about, it's a brand called Matilde. There's a couple of cigars from Matilde. Beautiful brand. Lots of history. So Matilde cigars, actually one of the oldest Dominican brands. No, maybe not a lot of people know that. But Matilde is a brand who started originally in 1876. Which makes us older than La Aurora. La Aurora is currently the oldest still producing cigar brand in Dominican Republic, but Matilde started many years before that. Unfortunately, the person who created Matilde back in the time, he passed away, and the brand ceased existing in approximately 1910. And moving 100 years later till 2014, where a gentleman called Jose Cejas, who unfortunately passed away last year, there we go. Someone in the Instagram mentioned Enrique. Love him and the brand. Great person. Great guy. Actually, he gave me the purple one. Last year in Dortmund, he gave me this purple one. I haven't smoked it yet. But yeah, Jose Cejas used to be one of the legends in the cigar industry. He used to be one of the master blenders in La Aurora. He's a guy who blended most of the Monte Cristo, H. Upmann, everything which was made in DR from the non-Cuban versions of the brand. He was the master blender, and in some moment he decided to leave the company. I think he's been there for 20 odd years. And yeah, he left and he created his own company called Matilde. He basically took the name from the company which is supposed to used to exist many years ago. He started the company with his son, who joined a little bit later, Enrique. And yeah, Matilde is one of those underdogs where not a lot of people know them. I think they have phenomenal branding. I love the branding of the Matilde, that S with the gold and different colors is beautiful branding. If you haven't tried the Matilde, I would highly recommend go and pick any Matilde. They do a few different lines, Quadrata, the standard Matilde. Again, this is the limited edition exposure. Pick up any Matilde and smoke them. They're great cigars. Definitely, if you, again, there's not much more compliments I can say, but if you haven't tried any, go for it. Right. The next brand I want to talk about, it's the brand with the weird name M. Bombay. M. Bombay is a brand which start from a gentleman who have a retail shop, Bombay cigars, and I think his first name was starting with M. I keep forgetting his name. I think his surname was Shah, but his first name I can't remember it. So he started the brand. The cigars are made in Costa Rica, And I think the cigars stopped producing for a few years until recently. I found out they re-release this cigar, the Quesara. They re-release it with some aged tobacco. I don't know if it's been a new roll or just an old batch with additional band. But this one here, this specific one, in Bombay, the Vintage Reserve, this probably still used to be, but it's still one of the best Connecticut style cigars, in my opinion, ever existed. When I discovered the brand, I have a bunch of those. I mean, somehow, I don't know, I bought like 5 of those. I like the wool, the look, and Mel Shah, exactly. Thanks for the comment in Instagram. I bought a few of those just because it's a new brand. I want to try them. I already knew this one, and I was so surprised how good is this cigar. So I bought more, and then I realized they discontinued. They don't make them anymore. So this is my very, very last one. You know, I keep it to show it to people. Maybe if they find some and they wonder, what's that? Is he a Davidoff copy? Because look like Davidoff, to be honest. Is he a Davidoff copycat or anything? I would say this is probably better than most of the Davidoffs I smoked. It's a phenomenal smoke, super nice, shiny, elegant, perfectly filled, so tasty, and yeah, it's a brand which I don't know at the moment if they are they still producing. Are they completely discontinued? Not much more information, but Costa Rica. If you make a cigars in Costa Rica, I always says you have a big cojones. It's not a cheap business. You have few people which are very well known to making cigars in Costa Rica, but if you're a small boutique brand and make a cigars in Costa Rica and make a good cigars in Costa Rica, well done. Next one. It's a something from the past. This is a white tube. The cigars are called Medallion. That's the Petit Corona. And this is, I believe, the last cigar ever rolled in the UK. So this brand inside is packed with paper, like the Fonseca, you know. No band on the cigar. I've seen some lines with the band, but this specific Petit Coron don't have a band. 109 cup, very traditional Cuban style. The company used to be owned by Freeman and Son. Freeman and Son. If you're wondering where do you know this name, Freeman and Son was a company which is co-owned the Habanos distribution at the moment in UK. You know, Hunters and Franco. No, Freeman, Hunters and Franco. So Freeman and Son was very well connected to this company back in the time, and yeah, I mean, this is probably, I think the last time they were rolling the medallions was in the 90s. This is old cigar. I smoked a bunch of those. Nothing too fancy. I mean, some of them they say they use Cuban tobacco in the blend. I don't know how true is that one. There's no way I can guarantee and say it's true. But even on the says on the tube says rolled in the United Kingdom from Havana Tobacco. And because of their relations with Hunters and Franco, I believe they can source some Cuban tobacco. Back in the time, it wasn't that hard, and most likely they actually have Cuban tobacco. But it doesn't taste like a proper Habanos, old school cigar. It's just cheaper version. Not cheaper as Guantanamera, but still not as good as Monte Cristo, for example. Okay, remove the second band. And there we go. That's one of the things pissing me off with the very expensive cigars. When they glued the band to the cigar. And obviously you cannot remove that. I mean, it was pretty close. It doesn't heat it. And now I have a hole on my cigar. Usually happen on Fuente, Padrons, and some other very expensive brands. Not sure why. What's the reason there? Right, moving on to the next brand. Next brand, it's a very well-known brand, I think. I'll show you the package, and you can tell me, if you haven't seen this package, what does it look like? Come on. Tell me the first association coming on your mind, what this package look like. We have a velvet pouch. We have a very, very elegant lacquered box. Big hinges. Even the way you open it, this lid is super thick. As you can see, it's probably 10 millimeters thick. One roll of cigar. The brand, of course, is Merafel. And what we have here, that's La Estancia. So Merafel, I don't think you need an introduction, but it's been on the market. There we go. Some people says Ometepe, others says Fuente. Well, for me, the association I have with this box, before I tell you about Merafel, is Behique. You know, I used to have a Behique box somewhere here. I don't know what is it now. But look, exactly the style of Behique. Behique came with that kind of black lacquered box, very heavy hinges, big hinges, pouches and stuff. So I don't know if that's on purpose, or maybe this is the recognition to be a luxurious brand product. But Merafel have been on the market as a producer for many years. They've been, I think, the company started dealing with tobacco back in the 1800s. They are well known for the first, not the only anymore, but the first grower in Cameroon. They were growing tobacco in Cameroon for decades. Of course, they're very, very well known for their collaborations with Fuente, which is not anymore. I think approximately 10-12 years ago, Merafel decided to start making cigars. For some reason, my cigar started collecting tar. I've never had this on Padron. Usually Fuente, yes, but on a Padron, never have a cigar which were collecting tar. It's not a tight draw, so unusual. So what I did, I just cut a little bit. But Merafel produced probably one of the most valuable tobacco, one of the most expensive tobacco. That's the Cameroonian wrapper. I think it's like 20, 30 to 50 times more expensive than any other wrapper. They start making cigars in Honduras, Nicaragua, and DR about 10-12 years ago. So the one I have in my hand is the La Estancia line. This one here is the Maestranza. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the expensive stuff. I mean, I don't have expensive cigars. I've smoked most of the fancy Merafels. You know, we're talking about the ones with the golden bands, the $100 odd. Never been over impressed of them. I think they're good cigars, but they're not uber luxury or whatever they've been presented like something so phenomenal, so unseen. Again, it's a good ones, but again, nothing too special in my opinion to be 100 and something odd dollars cigars. My camera is a little bit wonky. To be honest, I prefer to smoke La Estancia much more than actually the fancy ones. Classic old school gentleman cigar. I don't know what do you class as a old school gentleman cigar? You know, you mentioned that truth and true moments. What for you is a style? I'm not asking about brand. What's the style of a classic old school gentleman cigar? Because the sizes they came, I mean 50, 60 ring gauges, I don't think it's a British. Oh, you mean this one? Yeah, this is old school. This is like Petit Corona in the tube, white tube, 109 cup, very, very classic. I thought you're talking about the Merafel. In taste. Okay, describe me the taste, please. What is the taste for how the old school gentleman cigar tastes? I'm curious. Genuinely curious. What's the perception when somebody says, I've heard that many times, this is an old school, this is a gentleman style cigar. What's the perception? What do people think it's an old school gentleman cigar? I'm not born in UK. Maybe you have much more experience than me. And I'm curious, when you say an old school gentleman cigar, what do you mean by? Size maybe, but taste? In the meantime, the final brand for tonight. This is Micallef, another interesting and boutique brand making cigars in Nicaragua. It's owned by a couple. Those cigars, I think they're much more commercial and well known in the States, not that many outside of the States. They're made in a factory in Nicaragua owned by Gomez Sanchez family since 1934, something like that. But yeah, it's Micallef as a brand. I think they are very popular with Smoke-In. I think for some period of time, even Smoke-In was selling them exclusively. But they do some interesting cigars. They're one of the brands which produce 9-inch cigar. The old school A size from Cuba. They do one massive pyramid, like 8-inch pyramid in a wooden coffins. That was a good cigar as well. But yeah. Now they have one issue about this. Why the old smokers think they're superior? Okay, this is get a little bit political here. I don't know. Again, I don't follow politics. Right. That was the selection with the brands I have for tonight. Now is the moment. If you have any other questions, if you have any other suggestions, now is the moment to throw them. And yeah, it's been an interesting show. A few interesting questions from the audience. Of course, we start with a very, very awkward questions. Some of them I didn't know the answer, but yeah, I appreciate all the questions as usual. Appreciate all the audience. Appreciate all the comments and everything. Next week will be 9th of March. So far, I think we are on plan to have a show. Yeah, it's 9th of March will be 8 o'clock. Same channels, YouTube, Instagram. If you want to join, if you want to listen my nonsense, or have any questions you think I know the answer, or you respect my answer, feel free to join and ask, or just listen. In the meantime, read the blog, comment the blog, tell me what you're thinking. I think I posted a very interesting article recently about the situation with the Cuban cigars. Are they luxury? Are they become luxury? I found a lot of traction on that one. And there's a few more interesting pieces coming on the website in the next few days. There's something else I'm working on. I can't tell you much more at the moment, but there's another media which I might be involved a little bit. I mean, like do some piece of article, maybe do some podcast and show. It's a very early stages at the moment. I cannot give you much more information. It's something brand new. I haven't seen them doing anything. They haven't started properly doing stuff, but I've already been in touch with them, and we already agree on some stuff. So another project on the horizon. And yeah, in the meantime, feel free to reach out. Smoke your cigars. Tomorrow's never given, especially with all the current situation with the flying airplanes everywhere and all kind of nonsense. Tomorrow's never given. Smoke your cigars. On this note, I wish you a wonderful week ahead. And yeah, good night. And I'll see you all next week. Same time, same channel, YouTube and Instagram, The Late Smoke with me, Ray. with another episode talking about cigars and a little bit more. Good night.